Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Josh Does Coding. In today's video, we are going to be continuing on with our wave-based survival series, and we are going to be setting up a end screen UI, so when the player dies, they can return to the main menu or retry. So let's hop straight on into it. We're going to come over to our player folder, come to our player UI folder, and we're going to create a new user interface, and we'll create a new widget blueprints. It'll be a user widget, and we will call this WBP underscore end game UI. We can go ahead and add a canvas just like we always do with our UIs. Then all we are going to do for now, we're focused on functionality, we're going to add in a text block. We will set the anchor for this to be top center. We will reset the location so it is centered. Set the alignment to 0.5. We don't want to set the alignment to 0.5 on the Y because it's already perfectly aligned to the top. And we'll just call this end or game over text. And here we will say game over just as temp text. Now, what we can do is display the wave that the player survived to. So what we're going to do is we're going to bind this text. We are going to actually come back to our event graph. We'll get rid of tick and preconstruct. In event construct, we will get game mode. And we'll cast to our game mode, which is the third person game mode. And we'll promote this guy to a variable. And we will call it BP third person game mode. We can then come on over to get game over text. And we'll actually just get rid of this duplicate text at the end of this function. So from here, we can get current wave. And then from this return node, we'll do to string. So what we're going to want to do is hook up this current wave to this string here. Actually, what we're going to want to do is hook up an append. And we're going to want to hook up the append to the return value, just like so. And we'll actually move this to B because in A, we're going to say game over. Let me just get some more space here so the nodes aren't overlapping. Game over, you reached round. Then we'll put a space right at the end. So we'll say game over, you reached round, and then the current wave. Of course, you can put whatever you want here. You don't even have to put in the current wave if you don't want. It is completely up to you. So we can compile and save this. And now when the game is over, this will update to saying to our new text. Now we need to add in our buttons for returning to the main menu or retrying. So we can just throw these in anywhere for now, as we're going to add them to a horizontal box in just a second. So we'll rename this to return to menu button, and we'll make the other one retry button. So now we can search for a horizontal box. We are going to set the anchor for this to be dead center, reset the location, set the alignment to 0.5, 0.5. Then we can just scale this box to be however big we want. I'm going to say, let's just put it like this. And we'll make it a bit bigger down this way. This works. Not quite centered. There we go. All right, so we're going to drag our buttons into, we're going to drag our buttons in the hierarchy into this horizontal box. So we'll drag in the return to menu button, and we'll drag in the retry button. For both of these, we're going to hit fill, just like so. And we are also going to expand the horizontal box just a bit more here. Just so we get a bit more space. We're also going to go ahead and add in some padding so that there's space in between the buttons. So to the right, we'll just say 20, like so, just so there's a tad bit of space. And on this one from the left, we'll say 20. Now what we'll want to do is get a text, drag it onto the button, and we'll do this for each one. And then for the text on the return to menu button, we'll just make it say return to menu. And we'll make this text say retry. Or we'll say restart game. Cool, so now we actually need to set up the functionalities for these buttons. Now obviously we don't have a main menu yet, so for now we're just going to leave this blank and we'll take a look at it next video. So for today, we're actually going to set up the logic for the restart game. To do this, we're going to come over to the buttons details panel. And if you come to the bottom, we'll have a set of events. We have clicked, pressed, released, hovered, and on-hovered. So the main difference between clicked and pressed is that when you click, so clicked is the initial press. That's it. When you press it, it gets called. On press does the same thing. However, it also works with on released. So you'll know in some games, if you were to click on something and then move your mouse out of the area, so if you click on a button, but then move it out of the area, you won't actually click that button. And that's what we're going to set up, because instead of using on clicked or on pressed, we're going to use on released, which will only trigger if the player's still on the button when it's released. And the way we're going to restart the game is super simple. We're just going to call load, not load game, load level, or open level, I believe it's called, by object reference. And the level will be our third person map. So we can just search third person map. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hook this up by opening the player blueprint. Now in the take damage function, we already check if we run out of health, and if we do, we currently destroy the actor. But instead, what we're going to do is set up the end screen. And instead of handling this in the take damage function, we're going to create a new function, and we'll call this handle player death. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is remove all widgets, and this will just remove the HUD and the crosshair from the player screen. Then we'll want to create our new widget. This will be our WPP underscore endgame UI. The owning player, we can get the player controller. We then want to add to viewports. Now the endgame UI will be visible when the player dies. However, we need to make it so the player can actually interact with it. And the way we can do that is by getting our player controller. And we can set input mode UI only. And that's because once the player dies, we're only going to want him to be able to interact with UI. The widget to focus on, we don't need to add this. We can anyway, since we have the return value of this guy. We do not need to lock the mouse, and we are not going to flush the input. From the player controller, we can also then set show mouse cursor, and we will set this to true. Cool. So let's go ahead and test this out. We're just going to let some enemies kill us. Now, once we die, our UI is going to switch. And apologies, it's not going to switch because I forgot to remove the no to destroy actor. So back in our third-person character, under take damage, we can get rid of destroy actor, and we'll call handle player death, which is the function we just created. Sorry about that, guys. One last thing we need to do if we open our third-person character. At the end of our handle player death function, we are going to call set game paused, and we're going to set this true, just so the game pauses once we die. And then in our event graph, what we need to do, since we set the input mode to UI only here, we need to come over to the end of our begin play, and we are going to get player controller, and we are going to set input mode to game only. Now we can go ahead and compile and save this and test out the game. So you'll see we start off, just everything's normal, enemies are chasing us. Enemies, they come kill us. The game's going to pause, game over, you reached round 1, return to main menu, restart game. Of course, we have nothing to return to, so we hit restart game, and we are back in the game. Alright, so that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. In the next video, we are actually going to be creating the main menu, so if you do want to see that, be sure to subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below if you have any questions. With that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and good luck with your games.